Hey guys, Jake here.
I'm Eric.
Yeah, you should be able to see him on the screen, I think, if this worked correctly. All right, we're
Hopefully.
going to pick up where we kind of where we left off a couple weeks ago. So I've got my AC30 set up here, and Eric is rocking his AC15, and we're going to take a look at a couple of Rat pedals, a couple of Rat variations. So I've got a couple of them on my board here. I have a stock Rat and I have a JHS modified Rat, and Eric has.
I have the 1981 DRV.
Sounds fancy.
Yeah, it's in this like nice bright silver case. You know, and it's very minimalistic, if you will. That's
And
what I
was
like
it
about it.
actually built in 1981?
I think the guy was born in 1981 who made it.
So it's a relatively new pedal, yeah?
Yeah, yep. I can do a quick story about it if you'd like. For those of you watching who might remember the band Relient K, one of the guitar players from Relient K started the 1981 company, and this is modeled after a white-faced Rat. So, like, the thing with the Rat, of course, there's a couple of different variations. Maybe you've seen like the You Dirty Rat or the Rat Solo. There's a couple of them. There's a Turbo. So, like, this was based off of a white-faced Rat, which the emblem is just, it was a white box or something like that. So it's been very heavily modified, but there's a rat in there.
It's in there somewhere.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Cool. Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't we start off? I'll switch over to the other view here because we can do that. Very fancy. And so
we have to tell the story about that JHS Rat too.
Yeah. Does this look familiar at all, Eric?
Okay. So yeah, I don't remember now, like when I get, like when we, I don't know if I sold it to you or if I just gave it to you. Like, I don't remember.
Oh, no, I gave you money. I gave you money for that. That crap.
It's been a long time.
I feel like out of the goodness of my heart, I just gave you my stuff. Did you correct me if I'm wrong? Yeah, no, I gave you cold hard cash in exchange for that, and a couple of other pedals too. This guy right here, actually, right here, is my Blues driver. Here, this way.
Really?
Yeah, that was yours. That's the Keeley mod.
The Keeley mod, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, with the bass switch on it.
Wow.
Yep. A couple of other things too, I think, but I don't remember what they were. So this is the JHS mod that at one time belonged to Eric.
Yeah.
And this one right here, this is now, if you were to just, call up Sweetwater or go to Guitar Center or wherever you might go, this is the one that you will find in stores. This is brand new. This is actually, I just got this a couple weeks ago. And you can get it, right off the shelf for like $70. And so I thought maybe we'd start with that one just so we get kind of a base, and then
see where it all started.
Yeah. Well, sort of, because this, I don't know.
There are some differences to it, but yeah, it's still, like, to me, a stock Rat is great. I love the sound of a stock Rat. I think a lot of the mod, like, so that JHS mod, I think that's a great mod. I know Keeley does a great mod, and nowadays you can buy a lot of other companies' effects that are based off of the Rat sort of topology. Yeah. But I really do enjoy the sound of the stock Rat too. I think there's plenty in there for you to kind of start off with. It's one of the pedals that I always tell students to start out with, like, consider getting a Rat, and one of the reasons is because it's so inexpensive. And you can get a good amount of different sounds from it. So it's a great starting point if you don't know what drive sound you want. Like, it can even cop a fuzz if you know how to set it up right.
It totally can. Put your neck pickup on, turn the distortion all the way up, run the filter up a little bit. You got yourself a fuzz. You can even, if you hit it hard enough, you can even get it to gate a little bit. I've told students the same thing. Like, a Rat is just, you can't go wrong. Rat, a DS1, something like that's a really good first distortion pedal to get. One of the things I really like about the Rat too is that it's built like a tank. Like, it's actually in a metal box. Like, like you can step on this thing for years and it's going to be fine.
It's one of the only pedals that uses that no screw battery cover too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, also really handy.
Yeah.
And one of the other things I like too about these new ones is they've updated the power source that you need. So now just like a regular,
good.
Because this one over here, it has that little what is it, like 3.5 millimeter plug or something like that, which actually
like the old school Electro Harmonix pedals.
Really old school. And so you can see I'm actually using something different. I'm using a 9-volt battery clip going into my one spots brick thingy. I forget what it's called. So I definitely should have done some research before we started filming.
Yeah, that's not our style.
Yeah, right. So this is my. It works better if you have the correct microphone selected. This is the clean AC30, and this is the Rat. That is fantastic.
It's so great. It has like this quality to it that's very much different from like an amp distortion. Because like when people want distortion sounds, a lot of people will say just go with a gainy amp. But like I'm not going to buy an amp just for a distortion pedal. But the Rat to me is uniquely its own.
Yeah, definitely.
Like,
yeah, you hear people talk all the time like transparent overdrives or amp like. This doesn't do that.
No, not at all.
Not at all. You definitely know you're playing a Rat.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a quick kind of run through of the of some of the settings here. So one thing that's a little bit unusual about the Rat that we should mention, we have a volume control, we have a distortion control. That's all normal. The one thing that's a little bit weird is the filter control. So the filter control is essentially a tone control, controls the amount of treble in the signal, but as you turn it up, it removes treble, right?
Yeah.
So like if you're like versus all the way down, which into a
right.
Oh, okay. And you'll notice that a lot of people when they run their Rats, they kind of run them up here because it is an extremely bright circuit.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So essentially, if you have this turned all the way down like this control is doing nothing. It's just allowing all the treble to come through, and as you turn it up, it filters out some of the high frequencies. So I do like my pedals to be a little on the bright side, so I tend to run it.
Same. I'm like that too.
Yeah. It's funny. The older I get, the more treble I need. Maybe it's because I'm losing my hearing.
Well, it's because our ears are shot.
Yeah, it's probably it. I spent too many years hanging out with drummers, man. I can't. Or yeah, the drummers. It's the drummer's fault, not the fact that there's an AC30 sitting next to me.
Yeah. With
a
Rat screaming through it.
Exactly. So now if I turn the distortion down quite a bit, you get this kind of a sound. And then if I crank that all the way up. And then I'll use the neck pickup too, and pretty fuzzy.
Yeah, that's one of those like that's a great like the 12th fret and higher fuzz sound.
Yeah,
like with the neck pickup, like it's so great, and it can handle it pretty well. Like there is some differences to it, but like unless you have a fuzz pedal next to it, you're probably not going to catch it very easily. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty. I mean, does that sound like a fuzz face? No. Can I fool somebody in a nightclub into thinking it's a fuzz face? Sure, yes, I can. Absolutely.
That's the real test. That's a real test. Like, if people in the bar are going to notice, like shout out to you from the back, that doesn't sound like a fuzz.
So you messed up. You messed up. If you can't fool the drunk crowd on a Saturday night.
I know.
Oh man. So that's the basic standard ProCo Rat. So Eric, why don't we take a look at the 1981 there?
We can do that. And I know I don't have a fancy camera setup like you do, so we just have to kind of take my word for it. But I set mine up the exact same way that you did. So the volume is at about noon, so we'll say halfway up.
Yep.
And then so the drive and the filter are just a little bit to the right of noon. So we'll say about 2/3 of the way up, right? So clean sound from a relatively clean AC15 sounds something like this. And then the Rat, for all intents and purposes, so from my ears, because the amps, I didn't mention this earlier, my amp's actually in the closet, so I'm not exactly standing right next to it. So my ears are a little bit healthier than yours are.
That's probably true.
I'm going to bring the volume up a little bit.
Yeah, please do.
And I'm going to kind of do the... Yeah, that's better. That's better. I'm going to sweep the drive control on this one because I like the sound of the Rat with the drive kind of low. But even with it down low, it's still like super gainy. So here's clean. Here's clean. And now here's the low gain set Rat. And like that's perfect. Like I could go all day with that. I'm going to do the same thing you did. I'm going to bring my filter control all the way up.
Yeah.
So it's going to be kind of muddy-er. Also really drastically affects the volume too. And now, I don't really want to.
With a Telecaster into a Vox.
With the bridge pickup to boot. Oh. So here's the sound of it with all the way down. That doesn't seem as harsh to me. Maybe it's just because it's in another room. But it could be. Actually, no, I hear it now. And that's still, so it's funny, that's still with the gain at about 9 o'clock. So I'm going to bring the gain up all the way on that. All the way up on that one. And what I noticed right away with that, and this might play into the idea, and it will be interesting to see what the JHS does in a second. Yeah. There's a lot of bass involved with the Rat circuit. And to my ears just now, bringing up the gain really kind of highlights the sound of the low end. Because it's funny with the... So now I moved the filter all the way back up. So it's basically that fuzz setting we were talking about. And I'm struggling to kind of hear the high end on that because the gain is still all the way up. But if we roll it back down a little bit, that sort of goes away. And that's sort of getting into like I think that's where people kind of hear the fuzz face territory because it's a little bit less of a fuzz and a little bit more like a distortion, which makes sense because that's basically what it is. So there's a lot of room to mess around with stuff. And I think if you have a good Rat or even the stock Rat, you can really kind of explore it and find things about it that you do or don't like. Like there's plenty, like I would never use that setting, but yeah, it's a really versatile sounding drive pedal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've noticed the same kind of thing. I tend to, as the distortion goes up, the filter control goes back down. And most of the time when I play, because it starts to feel a little bit too muddy. And vice versa. When I have the distortion down a little bit, I'll tend to turn the filter up a little bit. Yeah,
makes sense. You got to kind of find the middle ground there.
Yeah, that's why you need that's why you need two. You have one, which we laugh, but that's exactly what I've been doing actually since I got this. So I got this other one here. So again, here's the stock one, and then this is the JHS mod that Eric was just mentioning. So this actually was just a stock ProCo Rat at one point, and then it got sent into JHS pedals out in Kansas City, and they did a couple of things to it. They obviously they switched the knobs, which is very important. That's changed.
It makes it sound a little bit more like tonier.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what it is. And then and we have a different color LED as well. This one's
that actually helps with the mid-range frequency.
That's what it is. That's exactly okay. And then the really important thing, the two important things about this are, one is there's a different chip in this one. I don't remember exactly what the chip is, because it's not
LMC 308 or something like that.
Not the 3. I don't think it's the 308 in this. I think he found another chip that he likes better.
Oh, okay.
But regardless, it has a different chip than the stock one. And then also you notice a switch up here on the top, and that actually switches between different clipping diodes. And so if I have it in this position over here, this is basically a stock Rat, except it has the chip a little bit different. So if I set this one up, here's the stock one, and then I'll go switch over to the Rat here, relatively the same settings. Sounds a little bit darker, but not much.
No.
That's basically, it's essentially the same pedal, But now, if I put this into the middle setting, Eric will block his ears because this is now this removes the clipping diodes altogether. And so for any of you guys that might not entirely be familiar with how this works, clipping diodes are they're built into the circuit. And when you clip the audio waveform, you actually dump some of the signal so that the sound actually gets quieter. Okay? If you remove the clipping diodes altogether, there's nothing making it quieter. Therefore, you're just getting a real loud signal out. So I just try not to hurt anybody. Here's this is the stock one again. And then I'll switch this to the no clipping diodes option. Yeah. I don't know how that's going to sound once everything's processed, but
noticeably louder.
Oh man. And in the room
from a sound standpoint, it's more or less the same to my ears as it is right now, but it's like decibels louder.
It's quite a bit louder. I think one thing that I can feel when I'm playing with this, and I'll turn the volume down a little bit for this now. You see even more than that. So this one feels significantly less compressed. So one thing you'll hear guitar players all the time talk about, like, it feels compressed or it feels squishy or whatever. This one here, this is back to the original Rat. That one has a more compressed, squishy kind of feeling to me than this one does. So
yeah. And you know what's so funny? So if you know what to listen for, I can tell that I believe you when you say that it feels different, because you can hear some of that if you know what to listen for.
Right.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you can see how much further down. No, you can't, because I don't have the right camera selected. If I selected the correct camera, you'd be able to see. So you can see now where this volume control here is about at 9 o'clock.
Oh,
wow. And that's about the same volume as this one being at noon.
That is wild.
That's how much of a difference those clipping diodes make. The only other thing on this one here, there is one more setting, and this actually switches it over to LED clipping. So I'll put this back at noon here. And here's the stock Rat again, basically. And then I'll switch over to the LEDs, and you can hear the difference there. So nowhere near as drastic of a difference as with the no clipping diodes, but there's still quite a fair amount more volume on the LED clipping, and a fair bit less compression. So basically, the quieter the signal is, the more compressed it's being. If that makes sense. So so if the signal it's louder, when you switch the diode, that means it's being less compressed. It's going to have less of that squishy kind of feel. So just to give you a quick comparison here between, I'll go back to the stock Rat, and then the same kind of thing with the LED clipping on this. Again,
that one seems brighter to me too. Maybe that's the compression thing we're talking about.
So the compression, because when the signal is being compressed, like any of those like peak transients that want to come through, which we usually perceive as like the higher kind of sounds, those are getting squashed down.
Yeah.
Because the filter control is actually in the same place. So the tone, the actual treble frequency shouldn't be affected. I don't think those are really affected that much by the diodes. If I'm wrong, let me know. But I think it's the compression that's contributing more to that kind of sensation.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you what. Why don't we play them on a back to back? I'll do these two here, and then
I'll get some settings back real quick.
Yeah. So here's the this is the stock ProCo Rat that you can get now. Again, the settings here: the volume at noon, and distortion and filter right around 1 o'clock or so. Then this is the JHS Rat. I've got the LED clipping at the moment, which is how I use it most of the time. And then Eric will play the 1981.
cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. And where's your filter control right now, by the way?
My filter control is at about 1 o'clock.
Is it really? Because it's funny because from here now, of course, you're playing a Telecaster, and I'm playing. I've got a couple of humbuckers going on this right now.
Yeah, you got like 18 pickups.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm actually just using the bridge humbucker on this. That's what I've been using for.
That's it. Really? That seems like you're underusing that.
It kind of does. I know. I did use the neck pickup for the when we were doing the fuzz comparison there.
Yeah.
But that's funny because that sounds a fair bit brighter. And of course, there's lots of things that go into that. We said the Telecaster, bridge pickup on a Telecaster, with a maple fretboard versus a rosewood fretboard with a bridge humbucker. There's lots of different things that go into that. But
these are all variables that sort of play a role.
Yeah.
If we sat there, we could tweak everything about the amp and the pedal and all this stuff. Like you could get there, but like these are differences that are worth noting because there is ask anybody who listens to them on a regular basis. There's a huge difference between a maple neck and a rosewood neck.
Yeah, big difference in the frequency response between those two different woods. So with the one of the reasons why I like the Rat pedal so much, it really does seem to work really well going into just about any amp. Like I have two amps here. I've got the Fender Hot Rod DeVille setup and a Vox AC30. It goes great into both of them, especially if they're clean, at least cleanish.
Yeah.
Filter control is really handy because the Vox is a fair bit brighter than the Fender typically. So just by turning that filter control, I can really make it sit.
Yeah, I can speak to that because my other Fender amp that it's a Vibrolux and it's so I haven't changed. Like this is more or less where I have it set when I'm using the Fender, and they do sound different, but it still sounds like the Rat to me. It just sounds like it's coming out of a different. Which I know, oddly enough, it is coming out of a different amp.
Yeah.
But like the results are very cool in the sense that you might have to change a few things about it to get the same thing, but it still has like that Rat distortion quality to it that you're kind of looking for if you choose to use a Rat.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
And I think it's funny that you mentioned the whole thing about because we've talked about the whole transparent overdrive thing before, and like that's also worth noting when we're talking about different amps. Like, so example, a Fender versus a Vox, but like a Rat is like. It's going to be a Rat.
It's not transparent at all. So also on the board here, just for a little bit of reference, we have a couple of other fairly ubiquitous overdrives. There's a college word for you.
Ubiquitous or overdrive.
Yeah, it could be either one. So the DOD 250 came around the same kind of general time period as the Rat. They're both hard clipping overdrives. Don't ask me any more than that because that's about all I know. So here, I'll give you the Rat one more time, and then we'll hear what the DOD has to say about this whole thing. And now the DOD, and I tend to run my DOD with the gain all the way up, and it has a very you'll hear what it has. Again, compare that to the Rat.
How do they feel?
The Rat in that instance right there feels a little squishier. The DOD feels bright and aggressive.
Yeah,
they're really
they sound that way.
Yeah, and you could always like what happens if I turn the filter control on this one down. Here's the DOD, and then here.
That's a lot closer.
It's a lot closer. The Rat has a lot more bass, even at that.
Yeah.
Than the DOD does, which sometimes I like because sometimes the Rat can get a little flubby in a mix setting.
Yeah, those 250s cut so well.
Yeah. Big time. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. It's also interesting to note too that the distortion on this one is only at 1 o'clock, and this one is max.
That one's all the way up.
Yeah.
So refresh my memory. It's a distortion control and then a volume control, right? There's no tone control on the DOD.
For the DOD, yeah, it's just gain and level. That's it.
Yep,
that's all. So the gain, if I just turn this one on here. So here's a lower gain. Even that's kind of nice too. You can get a little bit of a break.
That is nice.
Now compare that to. And then
that's cool.
Just to give you guys a comparison, because everybody knows what a tube screamer sounds like, and this is largely, you can't actually see it. It's a super overdrive Boss SD1. It's so funny, even with the tone control way up like that, nowhere near as bright. I've changed keys for some reason. I was playing in E all day, and now I've changed to D for no reason. So, actually, while we're on that, here's the SD1 DoD 250. I love that one so much. And then and here's the stock Rat. And then the JHS modded Rat with the LEDs.
In the line like that, I actually think that one might have been my favorite, but I really do like that DoD.
Yeah, they're really great. And one of the videos that I'll definitely get to making at some point is I have the Earthquaker Devices Gray channel, which is essentially two of those DoD 250s that you would switch between, and has 5 different clipping diode options.
Oh wow,
which is so much fun, and it has a lot more bass to it than this circuit does too.
Yep.
So it'd be an interesting thing to check out side by side. But that's
another thing I like to kind of point out when I'm talking about stuff like this is, can you think of any like famous players that use anything that we're talking about? I can think of a few that use both the DoD and the Rat, actually. Probably the sound of the DoD that comes to mind first, actually. So I'm pretty sure Randy Rhoads used to use either the 250 or the MXR Distortion Plus is a kind of the other side of the coin from the DoD, because I think they came out about roughly at the same time.
They came out.
One of them, like I think the MXR came second, right?
I think. I remember Josh from JHS did a video about this at one point. I learned about it. So the DoD 250 and the MXR Distortion Plus are essentially the same circuit, largely the same. One of them came out just a little bit after the other and accused the other one of taking the circuit. Yeah. I can't remember exactly which one came first. I believe that Randy Rhoads used the MXR Distortion Plus.
Was it? Okay.
Again, if you were to if I was to put this on, here's the DoD 250.
That's it.
Yeah. Just turn the game all the way up and have fun. Yeah.
Then the other thing that's interesting, I'm pretty sure, and I think this is, so here I am talking about the DoD, and I'm pretty sure this was also Distortion Plus, but John Frusciante from Red Hot Chili Peppers, he used to use one with the gain quite low, I believe.
Okay. It has a cool sound like that too, because when you turn the gain down, a lot of the upper mid-range and the treble comes out of the gain. So if you turn this down, it actually darkens the sound quite a bit. So I used to do jazz gigs where I'd take this pedal and I'd turn the gain down, and you'd get like a really, kind of a nice, I'll try a little bit of it here too, since we're here. But here's a neck pickup. And that's with the DoD on. The gain is down at about 9 o'clock. Probably an AC30 for a jazz gig, but
it's in there. It's in there somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny that you mentioned jazz too, because I'm pretty sure John Schofield used to use a very lowly set Rat pedal for some of his stuff.
I've heard that as well. Yeah, which is weird. But he also uses, I think, the AC30 too for his main amp. So when he gigs.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, because this sounds just like John Schofield, man. I don't know what you're complaining about. So I've heard also that David Gilmour used a Rat from time to time.
Yeah, that was in later years, later Pink Floyd, and then I think his solo stuff that he used. He was heavily using a Rat.
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we kind of turn this. I don't know if that's exactly it, but it can get you in the ballpark anyway.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, that's more than half the battle right there. And then the other one that I have heard quite a lot that used the Rat would be Jeff Beck.
Oh, really? I don't think I knew that one.
Yep, I've heard that lots of times over the years. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, especially I would use the JHS one for that, and you go, like a very Beck-ish kind of sound, which is funny because when that solo was recorded, the Rat didn't exist yet, but it's still Guess
that's like what he used when it finally came out.
Exactly. Yeah. So again, whether or not these guys actually use it or is a huge part of their sound, I mean, who knows? But to our ears anyway, it gets you in the ballpark.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure I've heard before that early Foo Fighters was an AC30 with a Rat pedal. Like I haven't really looked into that, but I've heard that before. So it's in. I think Nirvana. I think Kurt Cobain used a bunch of different types of drives. He was a big Boss guy. He used the DS1 a lot.
I've heard that whole like. I've heard that was a DS1.
Yeah, yeah. So again, all these early drive pedals, they were probably used a lot more than we're aware of.
Yeah, I mean, if I like, it works for me.
Yeah,
that's the Rat. That's the stock Rat you can get today.
Cool.
So there we go, guys. I think, geez, if anybody's still listening, thank you very much for sticking with us. No, not sure why you did, but we appreciate it. I think that's about it. Eric, you got anything else to add here?
No, I'm good. I think this was really fun. I'm glad we finally got to do this because this was long awaited. I've been wanting to hear what this 1981 sounds like against another Rat, and it's cool to kind of chat about Rats too.
They're definitely a fascinating little piece of guitar history. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for sticking with us, and we'll see you guys again for another show real soon.
Bye.